Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Diplomatic Enclave. I'm your host, Khalid. But today in this episode, we're going to talk about a very important issue, human rights. Now, human rights declaration has been passed by the United Nations way back in 1948. That is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And every year, the United Nations on the 10th of December that has passed celebrates this day of Universal Human Rights Day. This day is very important. Why do we say it is important? See around the world, see what's happening in the Middle East, see what's happening in Palestine, see what's happening in other countries of the world. If it's not human rights abuse, a lot of people are affected. Millions and millions of people are affected by it. And the United Nations is that platform that brings to the fore these issues and tries to find a solution. Now, the United Nations works with other agencies as well to inform the people, to heighten their senses of what human rights actually means for those and what the rights of a common man, whether a man or a woman or a child, are. Today, I have the immense pleasure of having two people that work very closely with the United Nations. Both of them are filmmakers. Why film and human rights? What brings these two together? I think film is one of those very important media that shows, that dissipates information, whether it be through commercial cinema or through documentaries. Now, human rights is also a very important issue, which is very important to be disseminated in a proper and effective manner. And media is a very important tool for that, film, especially because a lot of people go and watch that. To talk more about that, how they work to promote human rights, what they've been doing since the last couple of years, let me introduce them. These guests have come all the way from Europe and are here for a very, very short time. On my very right is Isabelle Gattiker. Isabelle, you're the Director General of the International Film Festival and the Forum on Human Rights, that is the FIFDH, that is based in Geneva. Yes. Isabelle, welcome to our show.
Thank you very much for hosting me.
And next to Isabelle is a member of the selection committee of the same Forum on Human Rights and also a filmmaker himself, Mr. Juan Jose Lozino. Juan, thank you very much to have joined us.
Thank you, Omar, for inviting us. And excuse me for my English.
It's all right. We understand each other perfectly. Isabelle, let's begin with you. You've got a career, as far as your parents are concerned, in the diplomatic circle. You visited around the world. You did a master's in arts. What brought you towards filmmaking?
I grew up partly in Colombia between 89 and 93 because my father was a diplomat there and it was the civil war. And actually, I think a lot of the roots of my commitment comes from growing up in the civil war. But then, of course, I rapidly understood, studying history of arts, that one of the best ways of really engaging people, of having them into a story and bringing them into what really human rights means in their daily life is cinema, of course.
And then you become the assistant of the director, Amos Gitai, for one of his films. And you become the production coordinator of a very important film, that is Disagreement, which starred Juliette Binoche, who's a very famous French actress. How was that experience for you?
It was very interesting. It was a co-production between many European countries, so I really got to learn how do you make a film between different European countries.
And then you start working and producing several award-winning feature films. And there comes the collaboration with Juan Jose Lozino. Where did the both of you meet, Juan?
We met 10 years ago. Isabelle was producer at this period, and we made together two films about the dramatical situation in Colombia against human rights. So two films, we made together two films, documentary films launched in cinema. In this film, we tell the story with civil society, who suffer of effects of the civil war in the country.
All right. Isabelle, how important is the medium of film to disseminate any kind of information, especially when it comes to human rights calamities and abuses?
Arts in general are very important, but especially film is an art that combines all other arts. It combines music, it combines photography, it combines, of course, stories, it combines colors, images, narration. But the most important thing is that it has a story, and I think stories is that bring us together since the very birth of humanity. And cinema is, I think we all have a film that we saw once, maybe we were young, when we were older, that really shaped the way we see the world.
Which film did you watch that shaped the way you see the world, and that also shaped the way you became a part of this festival?
The very first film that made me understand what human rights are is called The Night of the Pencils. It's a film, it's an Argentinian film about young students in Argentina that did a demonstration and then got arrested and got tortured. They were almost the same age than I was, and it really moved me during many days. It's one of the many, of course, but it's the very first one I recall. I was 14 years old.
All right. When one watches something that is so dark, because it talks about that part of humanity that is very dark, how does one bring light into it?
With film, you mean?
With film, through efforts, through a coordination with the United Nations, through forums such as yours, how does one bring light? How does one change attitude of the people, attitudes of societies to end or to disseminate or to reduce human rights abuses?
Yes, how do you make people understand what human rights are? Of course, you can write laws, you can write treaties, you can disseminate the declaration, and it's very important to do so, but you can make conferences. But really, it's the moment that these values that are in the declaration that become a story. It's the moment where it is a story that you're really going to have impact on people. You can write all the treaties you want. If you don't have a great story to tell, to explain it to people, it won't be as effective.
Juan, what is the first story that really inspired you as a filmmaker, that that made you go into this medium?
Yeah. I was born in Colombia, and the neorealism, Italian neorealism, it was very important for me, because I discovered with this kind of film that me in a poor country, it's possible to make cinema with the reality, with the tools in the neighborhood, in my little town. So I discovered that it was possible make film to take a picture of this reality, because film are bridges between a reality and an audience. So we pass, we are only passeurs of histories.
It's very important that what he says, that we are passers of histories as filmmakers, that we develop that bridge between the film and those who come and watch it. How important is to make that connection strong, Isabelle?
The most important thing is that a good film and a good story brings empathy, brings love. And I think one of the things we miss in this world is empathy and love, is to put yourself in someone else's shoes. And it's really the most effective way you can think of. You watch the film and you're really into the mind of the protagonist, and you really feel with him or with her what's happening. You really want to act, you tremble, you have fear, you laugh, you cry sometimes. And at the end of the film, you're changed forever, and it changes your perception forever.
Do you also feel, Juan, that when one watches an important film on any important issue, social issue or otherwise, or human rights as it is in your case, that one brings that message after the film has ended and then talks about it to others?
Of course, yeah. For me, films are sometimes the first impact for launch a discussion, for example, for launch for other peoples in other parts in the world could see this reality and compares with them. And say, okay, in my country maybe it's the same thing, and found found the parallels of the story, and it's very important. For example, if you see a film with the characters are human rights fighters, for example, it's very important to start an emotion and take action.
All right. Isabelle, to take action, you did 15 years of the FIFDH. How did it all begin? Tell us a little bit about the history of this very important forum.
The very first idea was that in Geneva is the capital of human rights, obviously. But there were many people fighting for human rights, but there was no place where they could all fight and discuss together. You had the UN Council on Human Rights discussing in the UN Palace. You had many universities, the Graduate Institute on International Relations, the University of Geneva. You had the journalists. You had many also political refugees in Geneva. You had students and you had filmmakers, and everyone was fighting for human rights, or many people were fighting, but in sort of closeted worlds. So the idea was to have a platform to put them together so they could take action together and compare ideas.
All right.
And we thought, what's the best way? How can you bring together people from that work in so different spaces of world? Cinema, of course, as we said. And the idea was to really have this topic, one film, one subject, one debate, but cinema as being the link between human rights defenders in Geneva.
All right. And you started this whole phenomenon 15 years back. Did Juan become part of it since the very inception, or did he join in a bit later?
He joined a little bit later.
How did you join it? Did she bring you to it? Did she push you to join it, or were you yourself attracted to the forum?
No, because I born in this country. Now I'm living in Switzerland. So all my film, my cinema, it's about this subject, about human rights fight. That's my life.
All right. In one of your interviews, you talk about a time of outrage. You quote Stefan Hessel. Now, how much of it is a time of outrage even now? Has that time of outrage become more violent over the years, or do you feel that it has become stagnant?
Outrage is bursting. Everyone, or a lot of people, feel outrage. The big problem of our times, I think, is that it's only an outrage against. An outrage against the system, an outrage against the society as we live, as we really see it in its global, including human rights. And what we are aiming at this festival is to bring an outrage for something. I want to fight for something and not only against. But yes, we live in times of anger. And
is that anger also still bitter and swollen and filled with resentment and hate?
A lot. It's like a wind that is growing and growing in so many countries at the same time, and we all know that there are times like this in humanity. We are in dark times, of course. But I think more and more there's people realizing it, and they're trying to bring some light, enlightenment, reason to. And I think it's quite the right time to now sit down and talk, listen to each other, and really use, again, empathy.
Juan, when you became part of this movement, you were also a very avid fighter as far as human rights issues are concerned through your films, Born in Colombia, an area that is also engulfed in it. As a filmmaker, how passionate are you about showing the human rights abuses around the world? How passionate are you about ending it all?
I think it's no ending is not possible. So every day you must fight against. It's the never-ending fight. I think when you start shooting a film, you are very angry against a situation, but you must put this angry outside to make a good film, concentrate all your energy in this film. And after that, when the film is finished, you take again your anger and you put that to promote the film, to pass the film for many audiences. But I think the fight is never ending again.
Isabelle, a whole old world order collapses in front of you, a whole new one is coming up into shape. Who makes it? And how can people like you bring a change to it?
Who makes it is a very complicated question, of course. We hope that it's the civil society that is making it, and not only big corporations or extreme right anti-democrats, of course. We do hope that it's citizens. We do hope that this new world that is coming is going to be a world of understanding one another. When we say human rights, sometimes we have this idea of, oh, it's a declaration, oh, it shouldn't be universal. Of course, we are all human rights defenders. Saying I'm a human rights defender is just defending what you are as a human. You're saying I have these rights that are completely basic and universal. So let's hope for the best. And let's hope that when we say the world is tumbling down, that democracy and our basic rights are not being thrown out with the whole movement.
Isabelle, it is 2017. We are in fact ending this year. And a lot of not good things are happening all around the world. What does it mean in your point of view to be a revolutionary as far as human rights are concerned in this year, in this day and age?
When you speak about this idea of revolutionary, you tend to say, I'm revolutionary, so I have to tumble things down and I have to make a movement and to change things. And right now, when I see the world tumbling so fast and going so fast and maybe too fast, I think that being a revolutionary today is, on the contrary, trying to stand still, trying to think and trying to take time. I think one of the most things that we are tending to forget is to take the time to listen, to take the time to think, to reflect, and not doing things immediately and reacting immediately to the facts.
All right. Juan, would you like to add something to that?
Yeah, no, I think justice is a word very important in this fight. The world today is not the same 10 or 20 or 30 years ago. So today, perpetrators, war criminals, now that there are international justice, and it's no maybe today is no easier than in the past make crimes against humanity.
Because the system is stronger than ever before.
Yeah.
All right. Isabelle, the spirit of freedom is always related to the human rights. When you have your rights as a human being, you feel free. How much of that spirit of freedom has permeated through your films, through the films of Juan in the last years?
I hope a lot. I hope for the best, and the spirit of freedom is actually not only the freedom of artistic expression, but also the feeling to express yourself when you watch a film, of course.
And also that feeling to know that you are a human being and that you have certain rights as well. Yes. That is also very important. When you bring your films, Isabelle and Juan, to different countries, to different societies, there are different kinds of people that watch it, people from different strata of society. How has their reaction generally been so far? Juan, let's start with you.
For example, in Africa, it's very interesting. People debate a lot after the film, maybe 4 hours or 5 hours. So you have the very long discussion, and people say in the film realities that they compare with them.
And is there a discussion that is forthwith, that is open, that is that brings a kind of a solution, or it's just discussion for the sake of discussion that happens?
A lot of things, because film has also a catalysateur.
It's a catalyst, yes.
A catalyst for different feelings in the. So maybe a film could put in the table a discussion about history, about about the future, or not about the situation, but about history, and so it's. You have a lot of possibilities to bring a film and discuss about your country, your life, your family, your society.
Isabelle, in the different countries that you've been, that you've discussed, that you've talked, to the different strata of society. What has been the general point that has come across as far as different societies and people when they talk to you has come about? I mean, what is the major point that really you can put on one table and say, all right, this is the point that I've really found in common in all of these countries?
What I really found common is that, of course, we all need to eat, to drink, to have a health care. But a basic right that everybody needs is also to have a place in society and to express one another. For example, when there is a natural disaster, people immediately, when you give them food, etc. But quite soon they say, I also want a Wi-Fi connection, I want a smartphone. And what is the need that they're expressing with this? It's the need to talk, to need to communicate, and to need to understand what's happening in the world. And that's a very strong common point in all the countries you go to.
All right. Juan, there's a very important point when we talk about communication. True that in this day and age, with the latest technologies, we can see what's happening in the other corner of the world in a couple of seconds. But don't you feel that social media also makes us apart as individuals, as society? What can films such as yours, such as what Isabelle makes, bring people together and talk face to face instead of talking through social media? Because it's very important for that conversation to be live and not interactive.
Yeah. This kind of event, the film festival that managed by Isabelle, is very important because it's a communion of people. And you assist, you can show a film, and the film liberate the words after that. And that is the most important. So discuss about the film and share this opportunity together in community, not alone with your screen, with your mobile. So that is this kind of events, the film festival, it's very important for that.
All right. Isabelle, when you began this forum 15 years ago, how easy was it for you to kind of put people together and begin this festival and start touring the world and bring the United Nations on board as well? Or was it a difficult task?
It was a process in the 15 years. On the very beginning, the first edition was done in 3 months.
All right.
But Sergio Vieira de Mello, the High Commissioner on Human Rights at the time, was the very first one to patron of the festival. He was the very first one to say it's very important to have the Council on Human Rights, but to also have a counterpart of civil society to talk freely about what is happening at the Council, what is being said at the Council, but also what is not being said at the Council for the diplomatic reasons. So it's really also started as a counterpart to the Council, and then slowly it evolved until today when we're starting this human rights film tour.
All right. How many countries do you tour, Juan, with the festival?
Wow, I don't know exactly. For the film festival, maybe it's Isabelle the good person.
We're only starting. We're starting here. We're opening. We opened last week this Human Rights Film Tour. It's a very new edition, actually. The festival. We had some screenings around the world, but right now we're just starting to tour the world for the 17th anniversary, and we are going to 45 countries.
All right, 45 countries is a huge number.
Exactly.
How has the reaction been from the countries that you go to? Because you, of course, talk to the governments of those countries through the United Nations that you're coming over there. How is the reaction of those countries while welcoming you?
Well, we have to come back next year because we just started. We're opening this tour here in Pakistan.
Okay,
Pakistan is actually the very first step of the tour. We're very proud and very happy to have Pakistan as the opener of this tour.
And we are very privileged to have the both of you open this festival, this very important festival that talks about important topics in our country. Juan, your film Crime Haters is going to be shown in this festival. Tell us a little bit about that film.
It's a film about international justice. The film tells the story about a little group of lawyers in Switzerland, lawyers who try to track war criminals in the world. So the film is homage at this fight.
All right. And how long is the film?
About 60 minutes.
All right.
So we told in this film about 3 cases. So the 3 cases are in Rwanda, in Guatemala, in Colombia.
All right.
And our characters, main characters, are this group of lawyers. It's a little NGO in Geneva. The name is Trial, Trade, Impunity Always. And they manage actually 25 cases of criminal wars.
How much of it is based on reality, Juan?
How many?
How much of your film is based on reality?
We follow with our camera during 1 year the work of these lawyers
All right.
around the world.
All right.
So we are spy about this job.
All right. Isabelle, when you assist Juan as well, and when you work on your own separate projects as well, on important issues such as these, which are reality-based, what kind of impediments do you come across? What kind of issues do you face while filming?
There are many, actually, less and less television. There is less and less money being brought into human rights documentaries, especially, and art house films in general. So it's more and more difficult to find money to make them. But when a film is well made, it has a huge public in many countries. Then, of course, it depends on the film. In one of the films we made with Juan, we even had to stop the shooting because we received death threats.
All right. But when you receive such threats and everything, how do you overcome? Because there's a lot of psychological baggage as well that comes along with filming issues such as these. How do you become strong enough psychologically to bear the brunt of it all?
Well, first of all, it's easier to receive a death threat when you have a Swiss passport and you're protected by Switzerland, of course. It's at this time that you understand the courage it takes for people coming from different countries and from countries where they are even threatened by their own government, the courage that it takes to really go and make these films until the end. But when you're really convinced, when you have this anger, this need to denunciate, then of course you don't think about what's going to happen. You just do it because you have to do it. It's like a call.
Is it as much of an important call for you, Juan, as well? Do you feel that anger when you film your films on important issues? Is it that anger, that passion to show what's really happening in the world that drives you to be a filmmaker?
Yeah, of course. It's the motor for the motor, you say, for start and for. But as say Isabelle, it's not the same. Life. So the characters the characters you're shooting with the camera lives a life very complicated. So you are only a filmmaker. You follow a number of characters of situation in the street, and after that you arrive in your hotel. You take a flight and you live in another country. So it's not your reality. So you are very protected, and that is a difference important.
All right. Isabelle, the protagonists in the films that you make or Juan makes or other filmmakers that you work with make, protagonists that are involved in human rights abuses or are the victims of human rights abuses. Do films such as these advocate their case to world bodies? Do films that you make help them financially or otherwise?
Yes, not all films do, but many of them do. There have been incredible stories, success stories, thanks to cinema. One of the most famous ones is a film that was premiered in the Geneva Festival that is called Sri Lanka's Killing Fields. It was actually a case for Sri Lanka, and the film was shown in Geneva at the UN Council, and afterwards it started a huge investigation, and the world was really completely shaken about the massacres in Sri Lanka, partly thanks to this film.
All right. Juan, when you work on films, of course, Isabelle pointed out that there's an issue as far as financing is concerned when it comes to documentaries of this nature or even films of this nature. Where does the finance come from?
The finance?
The money. Where does the money come from?
The money, in Europe, you have a public service very powerful, so you can make a lot of things with this. For example, for my films is Swiss television, French television, because if you follow your characters during a year, you need resources for financing that. But it's very important when the public television understand that is if they put $1 in this film, it's not because they waiting for recover $1. It's building society. It's not a material recover.
It's more of a social gain. It's more of a gain that is more important, goes beyond money.
Of course.
Isabelle, through the festivals, when you show films that are very important, do major film studios or television studios buy those films? Has that occurred to you, and then they show it on their channels?
Oh, it sometimes does. Not a lot, but it sometimes does. One of the films that we are showing during the Human Rights Film Tour is called I Am Not Your Negro by Raoul Peck, and it was even Oscar nominated.
All right. And Isabelle, now in this day and age, we've got different platforms. We've got Netflix that is shown worldwide, which has a lot of documentaries and films. We've got Hulu, Amazon is there, HBO is there. Do you evince interest in these big companies as well, that they buy these documentaries? Because a lot of people watch documentaries and films on those platforms as well.
Yes, it does change things, and they do buy also human rights films and human rights documentaries. What is very important is when they do that they still release the rights, because it's something to watch a human rights documentary on Netflix, but it's something different to watch it together in a movie theater and then debate around it. So it's very important to keep both ways of watching cinema.
All right, the next question is for the both of you. I'll start with you, Isabelle. You talk about debate following a film that is important on human rights abuse. When you debate on it, what are the normal questions, or what are the common questions that people ask you as filmmakers?
It really depends on the film. Last year, we shown here in Islamabad, we shown a film called Sunita about forced marriages, about a young girl, a young Afghan girl, and in Iran that was really fighting, and through song, through rap, she managed to escape a forced marriage. It was very interesting to me because we shown this film in many countries to see how Pakistan was going to react, and it was a wonderful discussion about women's rights, about tolerance, and I was very surprised, or not that surprised actually, to see that the questions were more or less the same, and the emotion was exactly the same in anywhere in the countries.
All right, Juan. Are the emotions, as Isabelle talks about, that are evinced when you watch a film that is very strong as far as human rights content is concerned, is that emotion the same the world around? Because you've been in 45 countries through the festival. Do you feel that the people in all of these countries show the same interest, the same emotion after watching a strong film?
No, but all the people have emotion. So for some people, it's a film, it's a bridge again for hope, for think a world is better, or this kind of option in this country is maybe applicable in my country also, or this kind of situation is applicable for the built history in the country. So you have a lot of possibilities of reaction. For example, one question that I receive suddenly in my film is how bring this film to show in my school, for example, or in my little town. That's very
moving.
Important, I think.
Yeah.
And bringing a film to school or communities brings me to the next question. How do you involve communities in your film festivals and in the showing of your films, and in also attracting people to make films for your festival?
So Geneva is quite a laboratory for new audiences. Actually, we don't have only one venue. We have 43 venues of the festival, only in Geneva. That is a small town. We actually have cinemas, of course, but we also go to museums. We go to theaters. And we go to sports centers, we go to refugee shelters, we go to hospitals, and we even go to prisons. So we have a special jury of showing films in prisons. When we started discussing, we go to villages too. When we started this program of outreach of the film, everybody said this is crazy in the prisons or in the small villages. Nobody's going to see an Iranian film or a Bolivian film. And we said, let's try. Let's bet that people are intelligent. Let's say these people still have a lot of curiosity, and they actually love it. And so in these 43 venues, people go, and it's full of emotions, full of people, full of vibration, because it's so different. It's such an experience to watch films together, to meet the protagonists, to meet big film stars too, that come to Geneva and they go to the villages. For instance, the football player, soccer player, Eric Cantona came to our festival 2 years ago. And we sent him in a very small village called Mera, in a very small community center. So if you wanted to meet Eric Cantona, you had to go in the village. So the mix of people was completely amazing.
All right. Does that mix of people that comes and watches the films in different parts of the world, in different communities, that also makes the forum that is yours stronger?
That's the challenge. I think it's a critic for this world of human rights. I think in some countries, do you have a little world, a little bubble, but for example, this film festival in Geneva is so important because this opened the space for debate. And I think we, as human rights defenders, filmmakers, we need to fight to open the space and say human rights is a fight for everyone, not only for specialists or for person and organizations who works with that.
That's true. Human rights is a fight for everyone, Isabelle. Yes, you wanted to say something.
One of the big challenges for democracy now, for our societies now, is that we all live in very closeted spaces. Even we had so much hopes on social networks and internet, saying this is completely going to open the discussion and have open dialogue with different people. It is not true. We even see it on Facebook now. Even if you go in your wall or in your timeline, you only see articles that you already agree with. We saw that, for instance, during the US elections too. So we only talk with people who already agree with us, and it is a very unhealthy situation. And festivals like the Geneva or here, the festival here in Pakistan, the Human Rights Through Cinematography Festival, really do help people to get together with different opinions.
And these different opinions are very important for all the people around the world, the different communities that a festival and a forum such as the FIFDH organizes. We'll be back, but after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Diplomatic Enclave, and we're talking about the importance of the dissemination of human rights issues through the medium of film. And for that, we've got with us Isabelle Gattiker and Juan Jose Lozino. Now, Isabelle, nothing in the world can happen without good partnership. What are the important partners that you at the FIFDH have that help you promote your vision around the world?
One of our main partners is the Swiss Ministry on Foreign Affairs. We have the great luck in Switzerland to have a government and a ministry that believes that the debate, a healthy debate about human rights and discussions and the promotion of peace is very important. We also work with many international NGOs such as Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, Doctors Without Borders. We work with the UN. We have about 150 partners every year.
Juan, when you were talking about financial constraints of making films and the issues that come across when you talk of important topics and you film these important topics, because sometimes you have to work for years and years to complete one film. Speaking of finances, you have the Swiss government that helps you, of course, and here also in Pakistan, you are here thanks to the efforts of the Swiss government and the Swiss embassy. But otherwise, what are the most important partners that help you financially apart from the Swiss government?
The Swiss television.
All right.
The Swiss television, because they are very with us. They share with us all the work during the writing process, the developing process, not only financial aspects. And after that, when the film is finished, they as a very good partner to disseminate this film.
All right.
But you have also in this kind of world, human rights issues, a partner very important is the small NGOs, local NGOs in the territories, in the countries where you are going, because there are finally the bridge who permits you and your camera connect with a reality.
True. That's very important. Also, patrons. Who are your patrons, Isabelle, in this important endeavor?
One of the most important patron, and she was the patron since the beginning, is the singer Barbara Hendricks.
All right.
A wonderful, compassionate and very committed artist. She comes every year, she attends the venues, she comes with the public and watches the film, she participates to the discussions, and this year she's going to write a text and a poem especially for the festival.
Oh, that's brilliant. Juan, when you bring in celebrities to attend these festivals, that also brings in the people because they want to meet these celebrities, as you talked about the star that was brought to that little village and the people were pushed to go and meet him, and that way also watch the film and listen to those topics. How important is the participation of celebrities in events such as yours?
It's very important because they open the space for other audience and touch with films other kinds of audience. And I think it's very important. For example, the last year in the film festival, we received the visit of Angelina Jolie, for example. That is very important for bringing the message and for open spaces.
All right, Isabelle, in Pakistan as well, we've got a film industry that is now becoming steady. Since the last couple of years, we've got films that are making a rousing success. We've got also very talented documentary filmmakers. We've got Sharmeen Obaid Chinoy, who's won 2 Oscars for her documentaries. How about collaborating with the Pakistani documentary filmmakers and filmmakers as well to make joint films on human rights issues that plague the societies in general in all of these countries?
Yes, Sharmeen is going to be part of our jury next year. So she's going to visit our festival in March and stay with us during 4 days. She's going to be one of the ones awarding the Grand Geneva Award, and that was thanks to our very strong collaboration with Pakistan. We are building the 3rd or 4th edition already of the Human Rights Through Cinematography Festival. We exchange films together, and we also had a very interesting project of radio and film documentary filmmakers that worked together. It was Afghan and Pakistani directors of documentaries that worked together and produced films and radio shows that we are going to show in Geneva too. And we really would like to strengthen this collaboration, make it very strong between Pakistan and Switzerland. We have so much in common.
Also, Juan, when you strengthen the collaboration between 2 countries when it comes to Pakistan and Switzerland as well, training is also part of that. Don't you feel that maybe you, Juan or Isabelle, could train some of our upcoming youngsters who are passionate about filming, who are passionate about showing what happens in the world, in the societies, and who are as passionate as the both of you?
Young people. So
yes.
Young people. It's very important because it's the starting of a new process. Here in Geneva, for example, we have the young jury, very young teenagers who participates to not choose the film but evaluate the film in a jury.
All right. All right, and Isabelle, there are also a lot of prizes for the films that compete in your festival. There are two 10,000 euro prizes and one 5,000 euro prizes, and there are the other prizes that you put in. Does that also attract people towards your festivals?
A lot, but I think the big magnet is Switzerland and Geneva. That's part of the magic and the big luck we have, is that Geneva is such a magic word. It's really, when you say you can have your film shown in Geneva, you can visit Geneva and you can have a word, you have a word to say during the UN Human Rights Council. This is a very strong motor for the festival.
All right. Juan?
More than the prize, no? More than the economical prize.
Of course, that was what she was trying to say.
But of course it helps, and they need it, and actually our prizes is an incentive to write new films.
And also gives that help to those people, because no film can be made without finances, isn't that true? So it helps them also to go towards their next project. How satisfied are you, Juan, with the way the FIFDH has evolved in the last 15 years? How satisfied are you with the way it has become better over the years?
Yeah, I think there are more and more, not biggest, but more and more disseminated in all the countries. For example, this idea have a festival, itinerant festival in 40 countries, 40 towns during 1 year. It's fantastic. So it's like a luggage of films who was shown in different countries.
Great. Isabelle, last question. What do you see as the future of the FIFDH? What do you see, what avenues, what further points of discussions are you going to take out from the upcoming festivals? And what do you see FIFDH becoming in the next 10 years?
I would like to explore new ways of narration and new ways of debate. The chairman of the president is Bruno Giussiani from TED, the TED conferences, which is also a powerful way of spreading ideas. So we are really trying new things and trying to invite writers for readings. We are inviting also artist Ai Weiwei that is going to give a talk and powerful speech. So that is one of the evolutions. And in the future, I would love to go on with showing films around the world, but also helping other festivals. We have a network, actually, of film festivals for human rights. We are 45 festivals together. We work together, and we have collaborations, and I think this could really be a strong a motto for change in the next years.
Motto for change for the future, for the society, for people, for filmmakers such as yourselves, and for the world in general. That's very important. Isabelle Gattiker, Juan Jose Lozino, thank you very much to have come here. You are here for a very short period of time, but you took time out for our channel and talked about important issues such as human rights and how a medium such as film propagates that and makes people understand the value of human rights. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, human rights, it's very important. It's your right, it's my right, it's the right of my guests here in this program. One needs to understand that everyone, whether you're a man, a woman, or a child, has certain basic rights. The United Nations gives that. Our government in Pakistan gives us that. We need to understand what it truly is and project that amongst the different communities around the world and also in our very society. That is how we will become a strong nation, a strong society, and a strong world free of abuse. Omar Khalid bids you farewell from this episode of Diplomatic Enclave. We'll be back inshallah next week, same time, same channel. Take care of yourselves and Allah Hafiz.